Hoseo.
Hoseo.
Cherokee greeting. Wave the great feather for the good of it.
Ho ho ho, henne yaha, henne yaha. Ho ho ho, henne yaha, henne yaha. Henne ya yo, ho 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 ho, henne yaha, henne yaha, henne yaha, way, henne ya.
Oh, that is a Navajo song saying, she lives, she lives. Here we are still in the early part of February, and it's what's called the early spring. And Mother Nature begins to show buds on some of the plants, and also the wolves and coyotes are whelping their young. So all of that is beginning to suggest her. In the Celtic world, that was Bridget, or an Irish Bridie. We go over to India. We have Sita, Sita of Rama and Sita. Sita is the original early spring goddess. Her name means the plow, like a furrow in the ground. And very much like Persephone, she was captured and held captive by an evil sorcerer down in Sri Lanka, Ravan. And she kept her captor at bay by holding up a blade of grass at him. So you can see all of that. And then for the theme today, in Navajo, changing woman. The Navajo name for her is Atana Indihe. English has been translating that as changing. That is, she changes, like the seasons change. She changes and changes again. But within the same linguistic family, we also have people who the Americans call Apache. They have various names. It's very, very similar. Nadachi, Nadleche, all very similar, meaning actually a white painted woman. So white is very much a feature in the divinity here. And that's my main feature here, is changing woman. Can say that she transforms or renews herself. All of that is within the cycle of woman. And to introduce there, here I have a book. Let me get my glasses on. This is Changing Woman and Her Sisters. And this is authored by Sheila Moon. This was published in 1984, and Sheila was 74 then. And anybody who wants to see if you can find this book on a book search, it's been published by the Guild for Psychological Studies Publishing House in San Francisco. And Sheila, this is 1984, so it's pretty good. And she has, to my estimation, made the best, if not almost only the accurate assessment, I'm trying to say this, assessment of what we are concerned with here, the female deity of Turtle Island. In this case, explicitly changing woman. And she has found a way to bridge into modernity, through these myths. I would guess that this is psychology that stems from Carl Jung, the pioneer of this kind of psychology. She doesn't say so, but it looks that way. And her book here is an antidote or an egress from the issues that plague modern women. And also Claudia, who's behind the camera here, she also recommends Jamie Sands, and she's Cherokee Seneca, the 13 grandmothers. Claudia did a thorough project study and published her own book from that. So put that in there for anybody who is interested in this way, that we might, change things or transform things along with changing woman. so I don't want to really, well, it's tempting to do any more of a review on the book, but I will cite one quote. Gladys Reichert is another pioneer. She was teaching anthropology at Barnard University, and she actually took in depth into the culture of Navajo. She was initiated in everything, and she published her book called Navajo Religion in 1950. That was, at that time, practically extraordinary. So she's quoted right here in Sheila Moon's book, and it's very concise to my subject here. Changing woman is woman with a sphinx-like quality. She is the mystery of reproduction, of life springing from nothing, of the last hope of our changing world. A riddle perpetually solved and perennially springing up anew, literally expressed in Navajo. Here the one who is named Changing Woman, the one who is named White Shell Woman. Here her name is pretty close to the real names of every girl. Very, very good. She also follows with, a changing woman is only verbally described unless the delineation of earth, would suit that. My main feature here, if we can go up here, you can look, this is my painting. It's a replication of a petroglyph. My encounter with this petroglyph is like I'm going to call it, a co-cognition, something that I knew and recognized when I saw it. This petroglyph, first of all, is located in New Mexico, sort of on the western side of New Mexico. I don't quite remember the exact locations anymore, but to say that the Navajo country, again, Navajo is a kind of Spanish name for these people, kind of call people of the field. What the field was is that they were people who had orchards, something like orchardists. Like that. They weren't farmers. They had fruit orchards. So that's where the name Navajo has kind of come through the English in that way. The name for themselves is Diné, Diné people, or their relatives over there in Khotan, near Central Asia, is not Diné. Very, very similar. So the northern boundary of Dinata, the Navajo country, is the San Juan River. It kind of curves up into a little bit of Utah, a little bit of Colorado, and down to near the edge of New Mexico. And everything of Dinata is within that region. This petroglyph would seem to me to be somewhat east of that. So I don't really have an explanation as to why it occurs where it's occurring. How it's pictured is it's in a broad wash, a dry draw, and a very large boulder kind of exuding out from the side of that wash has a very broad, flat face, like that. Seems to be kind of facing like west, a little bit south, like that. And these images are engraved on the face of that rock. I have replicated it exactly, accurately. The only slight difference would be first the spacing. These are a little more spaced apart on the rock. And the second things are the colors. The images on the rock have no colors. I intuited from my knowledge and education the proper colors, for all of this. And since Navajos do not have any image, nor are they inclined to make any images of changing woman, here is one. It's very remarkable in this way. In Native America, petroglyphs, for the most part, are like saying sacred. They have a sacred or occult property in them. And the word I used the Hopi name for is Wimi. Wimi means that it still functions with the right resonance of person as that which is imbued with a sacred or spiritual quality. So that certainly is what is here. There was nothing around this area like that at the time. This was 50 years ago. There was kind of a knoll down a ways within sight that had some small ruins of adobe. That was all that was there, like that. So this painting, through every means I have replicated it. Now the myth that this is depicting here is that there is a mountain. If you look here at this is my watercolor mountain. This is called by the Spanish name Gubernador Knob. The Navajo name for this is Chu'uli. Chu'uli Peak is the birthplace of changing woman. Chu'uli, translated literally, is spruce mountain. So spruce is the sacred branch or tree for changing woman. Also, Chu'uli Da'a also means in the beginning. So we have all of that to start with here. And you can look way up here to the top. I'm trying to use my feather as a pointer here. Miraculously, in this petroglyph, I haven't added anything to this. There, where you're looking at that Chu'uli Peak. And what's happening up there is that there's some atmospheric disturbance going on there. You know, clouds and lightning and thunder and all kind of activity going on. And who is observing that is right here down below that is the horny toad, who's called Rockshirt. He and his Mrs. Rockshirt, they're observing this phenomena going on up on the mountain. And traditionally in Navajo, when you have something you want to spy on, you see it in the nighttime, you want to spy on it daytime, you set up a two forked sticks, you know, to line it up. So that's what he did, and that he lined up these forked sticks, and he made his way up there to see what he would find now that the night has passed. And of course the story goes on a little bit more elaborate in this, but to bring it up short, up there he does find something, and that is, we'll say, a baby who is in a cradle board, and the cradle board is made with, you know, fantastic elements, you know, strings of rain and rainbow and thunder and all these things she's wrapped up in, and he brings her back down, you know, to his place of lodging here. And then the story goes on that different people come there, and the very first person to come and greet her is right here. English calls him talking god. His name is Yebeche. He's the maternal grandfather. He has, you know, he is the very chief male deity in this culture, and that's what the English call him, talking god, because he goes huh, 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 like that. And his headdress is made of 12 feathers of the golden eagle juvenile, because 12 feathers is the right one for the tail feathers. And that's his headdress. And here, along with this, I've collected this painting by a Navajo artist. His name is K. Jonas, which means he's from the sun. And it's an oil painting. It's really nice. And he's made his face here kind of a little man, where usually it's a cornstalk. So it's a little bit different, but it is a Navajo painting. So that's who her maternal grandfather is, although he refers to humans as my daughter's children here. So now we go back up here to the petroglyph painting, and here what's shaped up here, this is a turquoise. In other words, the stance turquoise means precious, and the engraver of this petroglyph has made this baby as a, quote, turquoise baby. And above her you see that round circle. She also becomes known as White Bead Girl. So that's very, very telling. So this is her, infant time, her little childhood time. And we go over to the central figure here. Now, this is her. This is Changing Woman there. So we call her, womanhood. The first thing you see that she's holding up here is a branch. It's called the frond of life. And it has little red specks on it. And these red specks are the flesh of Rainbow, because Winter Thunder figures into this event that's happened. It's personified Winter Thunder, and he's figured in terms of White Thunder. And Rainbow, of course, they personified rain of some kind. He was dilly-dallying with the wife of Winter Thunder. So Winter Thunder blew him into bits, And here the pieces of his flesh are seen up there on the branches of this. Actually, in the myth, in the story, a couple of birds actually brought the branch here into the story. And as they held it up, they caught the pieces of Rainbow's flesh on their branches. That's how it got in there. And this becomes the prompt for restoration, to restore Rainbow. And I would say, it looks like, and this was the Hail chant, and this would say this is for most of what I can think of Navajo healing is restoration. So it does have to do with restoration there. And Changing Woman, she's wearing this garment, a manta, like you would call it, like that. And this kind of white cross, this is the symbol of Winter Thunder there. So he's part of her, her birthing event. And below that you see this white sash with these two balls on the end. And if we can come over here and look at this piece here, what these are here, they're called alke neke, one who follows the other. And that would be, sunrise and sunset. They are her handmaidens. And what you're seeing here would be something very rare that I've replicated. I bet nobody else has. These are kind of somewhat a secret cult of her followers here. And these look like leather masks as they were shown to me. And this would be probably the only time they've ever been replicated here by me, Coyote, here. So that's what the two balls are on her sash, one who follows the other. It also helps in these kind of creation myths, if we want to call that, of having twins, we can call them that way. It's a feature one way or the other that seems to be in these early kind of Genesis here. Above her, you see her neck there, it's a kind of cross, got little hooks on the end. This is her symbol for voice. Her voice is the insect we call cicada. Her cicada is her voice. Now her head there, you see, she has little horns on her head. This actually means insect, because the insect was the third world. The insect world was the third world, and that's what's saying this is the world then that she's appearing in, this insect world here. And then you see, going over there, you see these snaky looks. Snakes are her pets, we'll say that. They are her pets, and what they are here in this image, this painting, they're called her travel sign. This is her travel sign. And where she's traveling from her location over there in Arizona, New Mexico, all the way over here to the Pacific Ocean, to Santa Cruz Island, in Santa Cruz Island. So there's a whole episode of her moving, why she had to move, what got her to move, and all of that. But she did come over there. And in this cycle you have, her childhood, infanthood, her womanhood, and now her matronhood. So here, the third figure is woman as matron, and her garment in this case is like abalone, meaning variegated, and you see the three serpents coming out in that square there. That's her home that has four faces of white shell. And here she also becomes mother for the Chumash people here. And here is also where the clans way over in Arizona are also going to be directed or named. So you have all this as the cycle of womanhood. And down here, this figure down here was farther down on the rock, a little bit farther down, and it was for me a little bit harder to make it out. I finally had some help in making it out. Who that is Grasshopper Girl. And Grasshopper Girl is the principal factor of parthenogenesis. She's metamorphosis, she's the germinator, and she's the recessive double of changing woman. She is what makes woman female. That's what it is. I like the Irish name for her is Maiden in the Grass. So it is a little character with a rainbow on her back playing a flageolet that is hopping. So that is what encompasses this wonderful, extraordinary petroglyph. You know, seems calling it a petroglyph seems to kind of lessen the quality of this. I only had one occasion up in Nevada at Pyramid Lake with Vivian Old's class. We took a field trip out there to Pyramid Lake, and the hostess for the Paiutes out there was a Navajo woman, Benita. And from her I learned that she's actually from Arizona and that she's actually traditional. And so for her whole hostessing of our class there, the students, I drew all this on the board in the classroom, and the students all made their versions of this and gave her drawings of it. And I would guess that this was the one, if not only, instance that any Navajo have been informed of this petroglyph, which lies well east of Dinata, so that we can really see all of that there. Other things they have here, we look here, this is a figure that I've elected to stand for changing woman. You know, she looks, you know, just right for that. And below her, I have made again a baby in a cradle. I've made this out of a trilobite, you know, showing something, you know, elemental in origination. And in front of that, you see there's a turquoise bowl with little carved animals around it. I use this, you know, as a portable kind of cornmeal blessing. In other words, I have white cornmeal in it as a way of saying in Navajo, corn, nera, is life. Is life. And that's figuring through all of this. Here, this is also unordinary. Here, this is a sand painting, we'll call it, of Earth or Earth Mother or Earth Woman with the vegetation in her. And what I have mounted the painting in is this basket. The Americans call this basket wedding basket. I don't know why, but the actual name is the Crystal Star Basket. And it has a whole myth about it and why it's made the way it is. You know, I have a crystal over there at the opening. And it really was a crystal star in their story. And here I have a mountain soil bundle. In this case, the mountain soil is from the San Jacinto Mountains, which hosts the Coyote there. So that's what that is doing here. And here back to Grasshopper Girl. This is my painting of the sand painting of Grasshopper Girl. So you can see her in detail in Navajo. You come here, there's another sand painting. This is titled Lightning Girl. Now lightning is a fertility phenomena. Lightning striking the earth brings fertility to it. So she goes along with thunder, winter thunder. And here that she's holding the frond of life here. All female, we'll call them deities in Navajo, will be holding this frond of life. If you come over here and see my rendering of that here, this is actually juniper. And juniper is also very, very significant. And here you see little tiny juniper berries which are harvested and used for beads, special beads in Navajo. And a bit of an anecdote, Claudia was searching to harvest these up in the mountains east of here. And so we were driving along until she saw alongside the roadway up there some of these bushes. So she pulled over to harvest the berries off that so she could make this kind of necklace. And I felt, you know, a surge come up through my legs as soon as I touched the ground there, and subsequently landed on a sacred place up there, which has since by the state or county been deemed a sacred place. So that's my rendering of that. The basket I have it in, this is a Navajo basket. It's made of sumac, woven of sumac, and coated with pine pitch, as are also their pottery. And this one was made by Etta Reck. I have her photo there behind the vase here. But all this I'm trying to say of her, of the feminine here. And I can go over here. Here is a Navajo pot here, and here it has 3 corns carved on it. And all this, you know, goes together with this whole sense of life for the Navajo. And then when I go down here, we can look at this. This is a Navajo bowl pot made with the face of a horny toad, like that. And in it, I have a little baby in a cradle basket. Now, cradle baskets in the Navajo style, which this is not, are very particular. They're made, you know, of different kinds of wood, as prescribed in the first, you know, holy event. And some people actually make these little cradle boards as votive offerings for her. That's not the case here, but it is the way that I've illustrated that. Now we can go all the way over here where we started to this photo here. This is Claudia. Claudia is behind the camera and who was singing with me there. And here we are in Kayenta, in Monument Valley. So we became friends, family friends with a Navajo family over there. And they said we were the only time, or first time, that people from outside of Dinata came there. And so, in any way, in this particular photograph, they dressed her up all in this style and everything. And who she is the sister of Changing Woman, Atsa Yogai, White Shell Woman. That's who's being pictured here. And you see the basket she is holding there, the crystal star basket. That's not the one she kept, though. If we can come over here and look at this one. I forgot to say that the couple that we are the friends with is Lynn and Lonnie Yazi. And Lynn's father was a Hatali. And this was a basket from him. You know, it has cornmeal in it. It's been used, we'll say, in the ceremony. So it's weepy. And this was a gift to her. These people, this family was very, very, very generous with us and so forth. So this is the genuine, original crystal star basket. And then along with that, we go down here to looking at this weaving. Now, Lonnie's mother's name is Susie Yazzie, and she's a weaver. And he took us out to Monument Valley from Coyote, and only a Navajo can drive you out there. I had a Chevy truck with a camper shell on it at the time, and only a Navajo knows how to drive out there into that land. And his mother lived out there with his sister and in a Hogan, and she's a weaver, and she had her own flock of sheep and goats, and it was really marvelous being there and hearing the ding 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 of the bell on the animals like that. And so this was her weaving piece for Claudia. I don't recall the name for this one, but here we have the piece, and so you can see all that we have been in the Navajo culture with people, and the Navajo has been with me since I was a youngster. So all of that, and lastly I want to say, what is this here? This is a rock. It's a white rock ball. And what I have mounted on is the first Navajo pot that I got from the woman out there. That's a little tiny, like a finger bowl. But what this is, the white rock, it means that with Kantung, the thunderbird's egg, the egg of the thunderbird. And the thunderbird is the oversoul of all of us here in Native America. So we say that's kind of an altar piece, just as the mother looks to her child, or the bird looks to her egg. So we can say the thunderbird looks to us here on this altar that I have made here. And here we come back to me. One last piece here. This is actually Alessa Songhai, and she was a princess, like the Nevada Day powwow. We call it Nevada Day powwow. And I chose this picture of her because she looks very regal for this theme of changing woman and her sisters. And this is the piece I'm going to read from her, titled, A Woman's Win. When I sing, it can help her. Yeah, it can, yeah. It's so strong when I sing. It can raise her. Yeah, it can, yeah. It's so strong. When I sing, her arms get straighter. Yeah, it can, yeah. It's so strong. When I sing, her body grows taller. Yeah, it can, yeah. It's so strong. Nothing is stronger than her when I sing. Yeah, she can, yeah. It's so strong. Aho.